Hi, it's David Worrell, your DIY CFO, with a quick PPP update. This week on our Finance Friday, we went over the PPP timing and taxes. Really important issues for anybody who's considering filing PPP forgiveness. So let's dive right in. First of all, I want you to realize that there is a timeline for the PPP that might be a little different than you expected. As you know, you got the money. We're going to call the day that the money landed in your bank account. Let's call that day zero. You then have 24 weeks, which, if you think about it, is 6 months to spend the money on qualified expenses. That's what most of you are doing now. That's starting to wrap up in October, September, October, November. Those 24-week periods are wrapping up. And so it's important for you to know that you have that deadline for spending the money, but then also that if you absolutely do nothing else, that your payments will begin after 10 months from the end of your spending period, right? They call it the covered period. So if you do nothing else, you will hear from your bank about 10 months from now, and they will start saying you need to start making payments. Of course, by that time, you are into month 16 and you've only got 8 more months to make the full repayment of the loan or to apply for forgiveness. So keep in mind that you can apply for forgiveness now, you can start making payments now, but if you do nothing else, this is how the timeline goes. And so these are the deadlines. Think of it as a deadline. And by month 16, you have the deadline for starting to make some payments. And by month 24, or I should say by the maturity date of your loan, 2 years after you receive the loan, or if you got your loan in mid-June, that would be 5 years after you received your loan, is when you've either got to complete the payments, the repayment of the loan, or apply for forgiveness. So lots of people are in a big hurry to apply for forgiveness, and I'm here to tell you, you've got until the end of your maturity of the loan to actually file that piece of paper or click on that bank website to file for forgiveness. All right, so you might be able to, maybe you've already done this, but keep in mind that if you start now, this could take as many as 5 months, as much as 5 months to get through the system, which means that your forgiveness already comes in 2021. All right, we're going to learn why that's important in a second, but let's just look at this timeline. Today is mid-October, so if you submitted during October, your bank, some banks are not even accepting forgiveness. Bank of America's portal is not open yet, but some banks are. So if you are able to file today, your bank is allowed to take 60 days to approve your application and send it to the SBA. And then the SBA has 90 days to approve it. So again, October to the end of the total period, it could be up to 5 months. Maybe you're looking at March or April of next year before you actually receive forgiveness. So lots of things could push your forgiveness into 2021. And that's important because you need to decide for tax purposes whether you're going to file in 2020 or 2021 if you have that choice. In fact, you have the choice to go to 2022, remember, because forgiveness isn't due until the total end, the very end of your payment period, which is 2 years or 5 years. Maybe you can go to 2025. Okay, but I'm suggesting that folks wait for 2021 anyway. That is, don't be in a rush to get this filed now because number one, there will be a new Congress after the election and they might make new rules that make this even easier. They may even come out with blanket forgiveness. Wouldn't that be nice? We wouldn't have to do anything. Number two, there is a tax loss carryback rule in effect right now that says if you have a loss during 2020, you can reapply your taxes. What's that called? You can refile. Thank you. You can refile your taxes back to as long as 5 years ago in order to use today's loss to offset profits in prior years and get a tax refund. You can claw back taxes that you paid in 2015, 16, 17, 18, and 19 based on the losses of 2020. So that's pretty cool. And if you filed for forgiveness, that money is taxable, which means it's going to increase your profits now, which would decrease your ability to claw back a refund from prior years. I hope that makes sense. But in any event, the forgiveness is taxable today. And so you have an option to move your taxable event from 2020 to 2021, maybe even to 2022 or 3 or 4 or 5 if you are a 5-year term loan person. If you're a 2-year term loan person, you've got those 2 years to decide when to use your taxable event. And that's good tax planning that you should talk to your CPA or accountant or tax provider about. Okay, so why is this taxable? Well, you know, Congress said that this is not taxable income. That was why this was really cool. They said it is a grant to cover payroll. Well, that's fine. The IRS said, hey, we have rules about grants that cover expenses. Turns out the expenses are not deductible. So when you don't deduct your expenses like payroll, that means that your profits are higher, your taxable profit is higher, and therefore you pay higher tax. So if you were wondering why it's taxable when Congress said it shouldn't be, now you know. And this again points to, well, will Congress fix this problem after the election? Okay, there are some situations where I suggest not waiting until 2021, and those are basically when you're ready to close the business, either because of a bankruptcy or some other liquidation or closure, or you're selling the company, right? So if you're selling the business, the SBA has already realized that there's some real problems with this. People are trying to sell their company, and the sale process is being hung up by the fact that the company has an SBA. Has a PPP loan outstanding. So they made some creative rules. They said, look, what you really need to do is establish an escrow account at the time of sale, and the escrow account has to hold at least as much money as the value of the entire outstanding PPP loan. And then you get your lender to buy off on this, and they hold that money until the PPP forgiveness clears through, and then they release it back to you. But if you're selling at least 50% of your stock, that's what you've got to do to be compliant. Under closure and bankruptcy, hey, this is really important that you understand that when you close your business, if you're just going out of business, you need to clear all of your debts and loans and credit card payments and what you owe employees. You need to clear all that up before you file for what is called administrative closure. That's the graceful way to shut down your business. And you can't do that until you've paid off all of your loans. And the PPP is a loan, so it's important that you get forgiveness for the PPP as soon as you can if you see yourself going through a closure situation. Otherwise, you will end up in bankruptcy, which of course goes in front of a judge, and yeah, probably the PPP would be dismissed, but man, keep it easy on yourself. Do a graceful closure if you can by starting with PPP forgiveness. So in those situations, you might want to rush and not wait. Finally, there's two more small situations. That is, if you have a special tax situation, I can't give you tax advice, so please consult your CPA. Maybe there's something going on in your life. And what do you think the future tax rates will be? Will the tax rates actually go up? So if you wait to pay taxes, maybe you pay a little bit more. Certainly possible. Democrats have already talked about repealing some of Trump's tax credits, which included better corporate income tax rates. So it could be that you might end up paying a little more if you wait. However, it might also not even be taxable. So if you think it is taxable and the rates are going to go up, maybe you want to go sooner. All right. I guess that's it for timing and taxes. Let me just summarize by saying this is going to go really smoothly for you if you know whether or not you qualify for the EZ form. That's really important. But now banks are not necessarily accepting the PDF forms that the SBA put out there. So the SBA has these standard forms called 3508 and 3508EZ. The banks are not necessarily asking you to upload those. Instead, they're saying, please fill out something that kind of sort of looks the same on our website, and they're giving you a long list of things that you need to fill in, and that long list looks amazingly like the long form. So if you qualify for the easy form, great. You might want to just do the exercise of filling out the long form, particularly Schedule A anyway, because bank portals suck and Schedule A has the answers. So I wanted to share that with you and hope that you are well down the road towards knowing what you will qualify for and towards deciding when you need to file for forgiveness, both for convenience purposes and for tax purposes. If you have any questions, please ask me here. Thanks so much. And by the way, slides are available also. Thanks.